Prepare to dive into one of the
We
deepest
are
and
the
most
guardians
intriguing
of the
narratives
light,
of all time.
the protectors
This isn't
of
just a
the
story.
innocent.
It's an epic tale of pride, power, beauty, and the fall of one of the greatest creatures ever conceived. Before there was shadow, even before the concept of evil took form in the minds of men, there was light. A light so pure, so resplendent that its brilliance overshadowed everything around it. This is a story of Lucifer, the being who was once the most
Herein
glorious
lies
of all,
the wisdom of the
light
ancients,
bearer,
a
the most
path to
glittering
understanding
angel.
the universe
He wasn't a
itself.
monster. He wasn't a force of darkness. Not even a warning. He was the very essence of celestial perfection, a jewel in the crown of creation, exalted and pure. Imagine a being who stood close to the very throne of the Creator, a being who sang songs so melodious that they shaped reality itself, weaving the fabric of the universe with his voice. For an immemorial time, no name was uttered with more reverence among the angels than his. His presence was a melody, a spectacle of pure magnificence, and his essence, a celebration of divine glory. But perfection, my friends, is
We
a fragile
are the
thing.
guardians of the
It doesn't
light,
shatter with the clang
the
of swords or
protectors
the
of the
fury of
innocent.
battles. It cracks, often, with something much quieter, a thought, a single, solitary thought that insinuated itself into the mind of the brightest of beings. Why not me? And with that singular thought, something ancient and imposing splintered, something no one could have foreseen, neither in the deepest foundations of heaven, nor in the heart of its most luminous star. Today, he appears only in fragments, a scattered mention in ancient scriptures, a whisper in prophecies, a shadowy account in a certain chapter and verse. Sometimes he is described as a cunning serpent, other times as a formidable dragon, but mostly he is simply known as the adversary. But the damage, the damage was real, and it didn't end in the celestial realms. It spread, echoed, and eventually descended to us. This, dear viewers, is not just the story of an angel who fell. It's a saga of unchecked pride, a rebellion against the established order, of what happens when the purest light turns inward instead of bowing and refuses to accept its place. If you are ready to unravel these mysteries and reflect on the nature of ambition, then this video is for you. If this introduction has already ignited a flame of curiosity in you, please like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our explorations into great mysteries. This is a story of Lucifer, the angel who became heaven's greatest enemy. Lucifer, the shine before the stain. Lucifer was not born into rebellion. He did not emerge from primordial chaos or the depths of the abyss. He was forged in light, created in the purest essence of glory. In the oldest traditions and accounts that come to us through the sacred words in a certain chapter and verse, he was called the morning star, the brightest herald in the heavens, a being of unmatched beauty and majesty. His very name, Lucifer, means light bearer, a title that once carried admiration and reverence, not dread or aversion. He stood among the angels, not as one among many, but as a singular, radiant, and incomparable being, something closer to perfection than anything that came after him. Descriptions of his form are rare, veiled in poetry and mystical visions found in ancient scrolls, but all of them point to something extraordinary. He shimmered like the jewels of paradise described in a certain chapter and verse, with the color of sapphire, the depth of onyx, the warmth of topaz, and the gleam of gold. His body was enveloped in glory, and his presence was like a fire that did not burn, a light without shadow. To gaze upon him was to feel smaller, not out of fear, but out of a deep and innate reverence. He did not command with threats or impositions. He inspired with his mere presence. He was the kind of being that others followed, not because they were ordered to, but because they desired to, drawn by his splendor and wisdom. He was not a common messenger, nor a mere soldier in the celestial host. He was something more. The sacred words in a certain chapter and verse suggest that Lucifer stood near the Creator's own throne, in the innermost sanctuary of celestial design. Some traditions call him a covering cherub, a guardian of divine mysteries. Others suggest he held a place even higher than the archangels, perhaps a role that, after his fall, ceased to exist. Whatever his function, it was exalted. He led worship not with spoken words, but with his very essence. Some believe that music flowed through him, that his very being radiated the harmonies that held creation together. He was not just in heaven, He was part how heaven functioned, part how it glowed. He was powerful, respected, and of a beauty that defied comprehension. But such beauty carries a weight, and such intense brilliance casts long shadows. For a time, there was no blemish, no questioning, no flaw. But sadly, that would not last, not even in the heavens. The seed of ambition, the thought that changed everything. Lucifer's fall did not begin with fire or thunderous fury. There was no immediate explosion of rage, no dramatic cry of defiance against the celestial order. It began far more quietly, so quietly that at first no one noticed, not even himself. Lucifer was not born a villain. He was admired, deeply trusted, and elevated to a prominent position, and not just for his dazzling beauty, but for the crucial role he played among the angels. He was a guardian of harmony, a caretaker of divine order, a radiant presence that others willingly followed. Where he walked, there was light. Where he spoke, there was clarity. And for an incalculable age, no one carried the weight of celestial glory with more grace. He was not arrogant, but composed. There was a kind of intrinsic nobility about him, dignified, self-assured, unwavering. Some said his voice could move the stars. Others claimed his mind was sharper than any sword in the heavenly host. He did not merely follow the rules of heaven. He understood them deeply, preserved them, and embodied them. And for ages, that was enough. But something shifted, slowly, silently. A crack began to form beneath the seemingly immaculate surface of his perfection. Lucifer did not act with violence. He questioned, not with bitterness,
Herein lies
for the reason that he deemed superior. He did not immediately demand power.
The universe
Instead,
itself.
he wondered why that power was not already his by right. Why should one being rule over all? Why should eternity revolve around a single will? Why couldn't another, someone equally worthy and brilliant, occupy that place? The thoughts did not seem dangerous. Not at first. They arrived like whispers in the dark, weaving themselves between his daily duties, taking root where previously only obedience had blossomed. And because no angel had ever fallen, no one knew what to look for. They saw a leader, a brother, a visionary. No one saw the slow unraveling, the subtle erosion of his loyalty. He still sang the celestial songs. He still stood near the throne. But in his heart, the center of gravity had shifted, no longer content to serve greatness. He began to imagine becoming that greatness. There were no public declarations, no shouts of fury, only silence. And within that silence, ambition, pride, the first flicker of disobedience blossomed. And that, more than anything, is what made it so dangerous. Lucifer did not plummet all at once. He slipped, starting with a single, perilous thought. What do you think would have happened if he had never had that thought? Leave your opinion in the comments below. War in heaven. The great conflict. He was powerful. But it wasn't just his brute strength that made Lucifer dangerous. It was the way he carried it. Like fire in still water, serene on the surface, but burning intensely beneath. Lucifer was not simply another angel in the celestial choir.
Are the guardians
he was
of the
among the
light,
highest,
the
perhaps
protectors
even
of
the very
innocent.
highest, depending on tradition, and the sacred words in a certain chapter and verse. Not just in position, but in brilliance, in command, and in unshakable presence. When the dangerous thought finally solidified into conviction, Lucifer did not keep it to himself. He began to sow doubt and dissatisfaction among the other angels, his celestial brothers and sisters. He questioned the justice of the order, the wisdom of authority, and the very nature of loyalty. With his captivating oratory and seemingly flawless logic, he convinced a significant portion of the heavenly host that there was an alternative, a way to achieve even greater glory, a freedom they had never imagined. The sacred words in a certain chapter and verse describe an unimaginable conflict, a war in heaven itself. This was not a battle of flesh and blood, but of spirit and will. Angels turned against angels, loyalty was tested, and the very fabric of the cosmos was shaken. On one side, Lucifer and his followers, driven by the promise of self-determination and a power they believed was theirs by right. On the other, the loyal forces, led by Archangel Michael, who rose to defend the Creator's sovereignty. It was not an easy conflict. Lucifer's brilliance was a weapon, and his ability to inspire loyalty was powerful. Many were seduced by his vision of a new kingdom, where individual greatness would not be overshadowed by supreme authority. The decision of which side to take was not trivial for the angels. It was a choice between the familiarity of order and the allure of a new era. Imagine the anguish, the torment of having to choose between such a glorious leader and loyalty to the Creator. But, as the sacred words in a certain chapter and verse tell us, the rebellion could not prevail. The truth of divine power manifested, and the strength of genuine loyalty proved more powerful than ambition. Michael, the faithful archangel, and his hosts prevailed. They confronted Lucifer and his fallen armies, and the magnitude of the battle resonated throughout all creation. This was a decisive moment, the turning point where the most intense brilliance transformed into the deepest darkness. The war in heaven was not just a military conflict. It was a moral and spiritual battle that set the precedent for all subsequent history of creation. If you are finding this complete history fascinating, remember to click the subscribe button for more content like this, and leave a like if the narrative is captivating you. The fall and the adversary's ascent. The battle was lost. Lucifer's grand vision of a new kingdom, where he would be sovereign, crumbled into ruins.
Of the light.
The sacred words in a certain chapter and verse vividly describe the defeat of the rebellious angels. Lucifer, the once light-bearer, and his followers were expelled from heaven, cast out of the realm of glory and divine presence. This was not a simple exclusion. It was a dizzying plummet, a dramatic expulsion that cast him into a new domain, a place of darkness and despair.
Herein
and it was in this
lies the
moment of
wisdom
fall
of
that
the
Lucifer
ancients,
underwent his
a
deepest
path to
transformation.
understanding the
He was no
universe
longer the
itself.
glorious fallen angel, but rather an entity marked by bitterness, envy, and hatred. His name, which once meant bearer of light, now resonated with the antithesis of everything he represented. He became Satan, the adversary, the accuser, the sworn enemy of God and all his creation. The beauty that adorned him was corrupted, his brilliance obscured by the darkness of his own rebellion. The fall was not merely physical. It was a spiritual and moral fall. From a being who inspired worship, he became a being who demanded submission through deception and coercion.
We are the
His
guardians
purpose
of the
shifted
light,
from praise to opposition,
the protectors of
from
the
creation
innocent.
to destruction. He no longer sought glory for himself in harmony with the Creator, but rather the annihilation of everything good and true. This new role as Satan did not come without a new form of power, a sinister influence he would wield over the created universe. He became the Prince of Darkness, the deceiver, the father of lies, as described in ancient scriptures in a certain chapter and verse. His objective: to thwart divine plans, corrupt creation, and lead humanity astray from its Creator. He would bring the war initiated in heaven to a new battlefield, the earth and the hearts of men. Wherever he went, into the abyss, into hell, into the darkest depths, he carried with him the seed of discord and rebellion. He did not accept his defeat. Instead, he vowed to continue his opposition, turning his fall into a platform for a perpetual war against what is good. It is here that the figure of the fallen angel solidifies as the greatest antagonist, the master of deception, the architect of temptation. The complete history of Lucifer takes a dark turn, and the universe would never be the same. The garden and the serpent, the beginning of deception. After his dramatic expulsion from heaven and his transformation into Satan, the adversary did not remain idle. The bitterness of his defeat fueled a new and dangerous ambition, to corrupt the newest and most precious divine creation, humanity. The sacred words in a certain chapter and verse present us with a scene of beauty and innocence, an earthly paradise known as the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve lived in perfect harmony with their Creator, without knowledge of evil or shame. This was the perfect stage for the next phase of Satan's war. He could not attack the Creator directly, but he could wound his heart by seducing his most beloved creation. And it was then that Satan assumed a cunning and deceptive form, that of a serpent, a creature that, in its sagacity, was perfect for his plan. The serpent, imbued with Lucifer's wicked mind, approached Eve with an innocent question, yet laden with venom. Is it true that God said you must not eat from any tree in the garden? This was the first of many deceptive tactics, to sow doubt, to question the divine word, to insinuate restrictions where there was freedom. Eve, in her innocence, replied, explaining the only prohibition, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It was then that Satan's true cunning was revealed. He directly challenged the Creator's word, saying, You will certainly not die, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. He offered knowledge, power, and a false promise of divinity, appealing to the human desire to be like God. This temptation was more than the offer of forbidden fruit. It was a direct attack on trust, faith, and obedience. Satan, the fallen angel, used his experience in questioning authority to seduce humanity into disobedience. He presented the Creator as a being who withheld something good, something they deserved to have. Adam and Eve yielded to temptation, and in doing so, broke the single rule. The consequences were catastrophic, as reported in the sacred words in a certain chapter and verse. Innocence was lost, harmony with the Creator was broken, and sin entered the world, bringing with it pain, suffering, and death. This act marked the beginning of Lucifer's influence over humanity, establishing him as the prince of this world, a title he would earn through his manipulation and deception. This passage from the Garden of Eden is crucial to understanding the complete history of Satan and his ongoing role. It demonstrates his nature as a deceiver, his ability to distort truth, and his persistent enmity against the Creator and his creation. The serpent's act in the garden was not just an isolated event. It was the prelude to millennia of temptation and opposition. If this part of the story makes you reflect on the choices we make, then leave your like and share this video so that more people can understand this powerful narrative. Lucifer's kingdom, the prince of this world. With the success of his tactic in the Garden of Eden, Lucifer, now firmly established as Satan, solidified his influence over the world. The sacred words in certain chapter and verse, and many traditions throughout history, describe him as a prince of this world or the god of this age. This title does not mean he has total control, but rather a permission granted by humanity's fall to operate within the limits of time and space, exerting a dark and seductive influence over humanity. His kingdom is not a physical place in the conventional sense, but rather a spiritual domain that seeks to manipulate the wills, hearts, and minds of human beings. It is a kingdom of deception, illusion, and temptation. Satan operates behind the scenes, using his cunning to distort truth, sow discord, and lead people away from the path of light. Think of the internal struggles we face daily, the temptations that arise, the thoughts of selfishness, pride, and despair. Many of these battles, according to ancient scriptures in a certain chapter and verse, are battlefields where the influence of the fallen angel manifests. He does not force people to do evil, but seduces them, persuades them, tempts them to follow their own selfish desires, which ultimately lead to destruction. Satan's primary goal is to steal, kill, and destroy, as described in certain passages of the sacred words. He seeks to undermine faith, corrupt morality, and divert humanity from its divine destiny. His kingdom is characterized by spiritual darkness, injustice, oppression, and everything that opposes goodness and truth. But it is crucial to understand that his kingdom is not sovereign. He operates within divine permissions, and his power is limited. The complete history of Lucifer as Satan is a narrative of a power that, although vast and influential, is always under scrutiny and, ultimately, the control of a greater force. He is an adversary, yes, but not a supreme ruler. Cultures and religions around the world, in their own narratives and beliefs, have different ways of expressing this idea of an evil force acting in the world. Whatever the name or form, the essence of the prince of this world resonates in many hearts and minds, reminding us of the constant battle between good and evil. Have you felt this influence in your own life or in society? Share your reflections in the comments, and if you value deep discussions like this, subscribe to the channel to join our community. Lucifer and Christ, the final clash of powers. The complete history of Lucifer as Satan reaches its peak of conflict with the arrival of Jesus Christ. The sacred words in certain chapter and verse describe Christ as the embodiment of divine love and truth, coming to redeem humanity and undo the works of the adversary. This confrontation was not just an ideological battle. It was a clash of kingdoms, the kingdom of light against the kingdom of darkness. From the beginning, Satan sought to frustrate the divine plan of redemption. Shortly after Christ's baptism, the fallen angel tempted him in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. It was a direct test of Christ's loyalty and purpose. Lucifer offered him earthly power, glory, and the annulment of his suffering, all in exchange for simple worship. If you are the Son of God, Tell these stones to become bread. If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here. All this I will give you if you will bow down and worship me." In each temptation, Christ responded with a divine word, quoting the sacred words in a certain chapter and verse, demonstrating that true authority and power come from God and not from Satan's deception. This was Christ's first great victory over the adversary, showing that even the prince of this world had no power over the one who came to redeem the world. Throughout his ministry, Christ continually confronted and exposed Satan's works. He healed the sick, cast out demons, who are often understood as the fallen angels who follow Lucifer, and taught about the kingdom of God, which directly opposed Satan's kingdom of darkness. Christ spoke of the truth that frees from lies, the light that dispels darkness, and the love that overcomes hatred, all elements that Satan strove to destroy. The climax of the confrontation occurred in the crucifixion and resurrection. Satan believed that by inciting Christ's death, he had won. Darkness seemed to have triumphed on the cross. But what appeared to be the fallen angel's greatest victory was, in fact, his greatest defeat. Christ's resurrection demonstrated his power over death and sin, stripping Satan of his authority over those who believe. Death, which Satan had used as his greatest weapon, was conquered by Christ. This confrontation between Lucifer and Christ is the core of the cosmic narrative of good versus evil. It illustrates the futility of Satan's rebellion and the redemptive power of divine love. The complete history of the fallen angel finds its antithesis in the incarnation and sacrifice of Christ, who offers hope and liberation from Satan's influence. It is a story that continues to inspire millions. If this profound connection between Lucifer and Christ has intrigued you, please share this video with others and subscribe to continue exploring with us. The Book of Revelation, Satan's Final Destiny. The complete history of Lucifer, the fallen angel who became Satan, culminates in prophetic visions of his ultimate destiny, primarily in the Book of Revelation, described in a certain chapter and verse of the sacred words. This book offers a glimpse into future, an epilogue to the saga of the adversary, where his complete and definitive defeat is assured. The Book of Revelation describes a series of cataclysmic events that will lead to the final establishment of God's kingdom. In this scenario, Satan is depicted as a great dragon, the ancient serpent, who will continue to deceive the nations and wage war against the faithful. He will gather his forces and attempt one last time to subvert the divine order and oppress humanity. However, the prophecies are clear. Lucifer's rebellion will not have a lasting victory. The sacred words in a certain chapter and verse narrate a final battle, where Michael,
lies
the archangel who cast him out of heaven in celestial war, will once again play a crucial role. Satan will be bound for 1,000 years, prevented from deceiving the nations, demonstrating divine control over his malice. After this period, he will be released for a brief time for one last attempt at deception, but will be quickly defeated. The complete history of Satan will end with his condemnation to the lake of fire and sulfur, along with death and hell, where he will be tormented forever and ever, as the sacred words in a certain chapter and verse describe. This is the final justice, the retribution for pride, rebellion, and evil he brought to the universe. This outcome is not merely a punishment, but the final restoration of order and peace that were disturbed by Lucifer's fall. The absence of Satan means the elimination of the primary source of deception and corruption, allowing for a new heaven and a new earth to be established, where justice and light reign supreme. The narrative of the Book of Revelation serves as a powerful reminder that, despite the influence of the fallen angel throughout history, his power is temporary and his destiny is sealed. He is a formidable enemy, but not invincible. Hope for humanity lies in the Creator's ultimate victory and the promise of a future free from Lucifer's oppression. This final perspective is a pillar of faith for many and offers a dramatic conclusion to the complete history of Satan. If this vision of the future resonates with you, show your support with a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more deep explorations. Conclusion: the legacy of Lucifer, the fallen angel. We have reached the end of the complete history of Lucifer, the fallen angel who became Satan. It is a saga that stretches from the highest celestial realms to the depths of the human soul, permeating myths, theologies, and the very structure of our understanding of good and evil. From the incomparable brilliance of a guardian cherub to the resentful darkness of the adversary, his journey is a cautionary tale about the dangers of pride and unrestrained ambition. We saw how Lucifer, the morning star, was a being of unparalleled beauty and power, a beacon of light in creation. But that same splendor, when turned inward, generated the thought of, why not me? A seed of rebellion that blossomed into a cosmic conflict. The war in heaven and his subsequent fall transformed him into Satan, the sworn enemy. His first incursion on earth in the Garden of Eden revealed his mastery of deception, ushering in a reign of influence over humanity that persists to this day, where he acts as a prince of this world. However, his opposition met its greatest obstacle in the figure of Christ, whose sacrifice and resurrection sealed Satan's fate and offered the hope of redemption to those he sought to corrupt. And, finally, the prophecies of the sacred words in a certain chapter and verse guarantee his eternal defeat and confinement, restoring ultimate harmony. The complete history of Lucifer is not just an ancient narrative. It is a lens through which we can examine the complexities of human choice, the nature of temptation, and the power of redemption. It invites us to reflect on the power of free will, the consequences of disobedience, and the promise of victory over the forces of darkness. The legacy of Lucifer as Satan is a constant reminder of the spiritual battle that unfolds in the universe and, often, within ourselves. What is the most impactful lesson you have taken from this journey through the complete history of the fallen angel? Your reflections are very important to us. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts. Finally, reflect with me. Perfection doesn't guarantee loyalty. Think about it. Lucifer was perfect, the brightest and most beautiful being. If even perfection in an angel wasn't enough to guarantee his unwavering loyalty, what does that tell us about the fragility of our own nature, imperfect and flawed? External perfection does not immunize against internal corruption. The beginning of evil is a whisper, not a shout. Lucifer's fall didn't start with an explosion of hatred, but with a simple, silent thought, why not me? This is shocking because it shows us that evil, in its most insidious form, often begins as a small seed of selfishness or ambition in the depths of our minds, not as a grand, overt act. Pay attention to your own thoughts. Temptation offers a distorted mirror of your deepest desires. Satan didn't invent new cravings in Eve. He simply distorted existing ones, promising her something like God. Temptation rarely offers us something we don't secretly desire, but rather a perverted and destructive version of what we yearn for. He knows what you want and uses it against you. A single choice can reverberate through all eternity. Lucifer's decision not to bow unleashed a cosmic war, the fall of humanity and millennia of conflict. This is impactful because it reveals the terrifying power of a single choice, whether angelic or human. Every decision you make carries more weight than you imagine. The celestial war is a metaphor for the inner battle. The conflict in heaven between the forces of Lucifer and Michael is not just an ancient story. It's a constant reflection of the daily struggle within each of us. Every time we choose goodness over selfishness, truth over lies, humility over pride, we are participating in a microcosmic version of that same war. The battle isn't out there. It's within. Free will is the greatest gift and the greatest risk.
We are the guardians of the light.
The Creator allowed Lucifer to choose his own rebellion and allowed humanity to choose disobedience. This is shocking because it demonstrates that true love cannot exist without the freedom to reject it. Free will is not only the ability to choose good, but also the terrifying freedom to choose evil. And we possess that same freedom. The irony of pride, Lucifer wanted to be like God, or perhaps even more. The paradox is that, in pursuing this blind ambition, he became the antithesis of everything the Creator represents: love, light, truth. He fell by attempting to elevate himself, showing that true greatness lies not in self-exaltation, but in service and humility.
Herein
the incessant
lies
presence
the
of the adversary.
ancients.
Think
A
Satan's
path
story
to
is just a tale from the
understanding
past?
the universe
Remember, he is
itself.
described as the prince of this world and the god of this age. This means his influence is still actively operating in society, in ideologies, and the narrative that surround us, often in ways we don't even perceive, subtly leading us away from truth. The indomitable power of love and redemption. As dark as a complete history of Lucifer and his influence may be, it is always confronted by a greater force: love and the promise of redemption. The coming of Christ, his victory over death, and Satan's ultimate defeat are proof that, no matter how deep the darkness, light and love always prevail. There is hope, even in the most desperate battles. Your choice defines the unfolding story. Finally, the most impactful reflection of all, this is not just Lucifer's story, but your story too. You are part of this cosmic drama. Every day, every thought, every action, you are writing your own chapter in this battle between light and darkness. Which side are you choosing to fight on? And what legacy are you building for yourself? I hope these reflections have made you see this timeless narrative with new eyes. Continue questioning, continue seeking, and continue reflecting on the depths of existence.